What's up, everyone? Nick at Nighttime. Let's go over the books that I read this week. I'm going to go ahead and put my grading scale up. So when I introduce a book, I'm going to put the cover of the book on the grading scale so you can see how they stack up against each other. Man, let's get into Marvel first. We're going to start with Avengers Twilight. We have issue number 2 out this week. And so this is a really, really great book. Chip Zdarsky's on this one, and he's painting this futuristic landscape where essentially like the government has too much surveillance. There's all these just like weird people walking around, pretty much accepting like the prison that's been built around them. And that's pretty much the theme of this book so far. You have a lot of these old time heroes like Steve Rogers, like Luke Cage, still walking around. Some surprising deaths in this universe as well. But these old-time heroes, they're walking around and they just do not want to accept the fact that the world has fallen this far, right? They've worked so hard to protect the people, to protect freedom and liberty and all that good stuff, but they just can't believe that the wool has been pulled over everyone's eyes, and they're trying to expose like the deep, dark truths that are out there right now, but their message really falls on deaf ears because that brainwashing has really sunk in at this point. And I think it's a pretty cool thing to think about. It's a really interesting concept, at least, right? Like, even if you try to tell somebody that something is just not right, they're so brainwashed or so in their groove at the moment that you just can't talk them out of it. And it's a really cool idea going on here. There's some conversations that Steve has with some other former heroes, some Avengers, and I just love that dynamic. I love those conversations, and you just know we're going to get some surprise cameos coming up in the later issues. Chip's knocking this one out of the park. The art is spectacular as well, so definitely check out Avengers Twilight if you haven't yet. It's one of the best Marvel books out right now. We're only issue 2. This is crazy. Check it out. Next, we have The Incredible Hulk, issue number 8. Philip Kennedy Johnson's on this one. Nick Klein on the art. Cover is really badass. I do really like the crossover he had with this iteration of Ghost Rider, whoever this might be. It's a pretty cool concept. There's a spirit that's compelled to protect this one child in this remote village, you know what I mean? And whenever there's a danger that comes to that village, this Ghost Rider resurrects itself from the old bike laying around from one of the world wars, and he protects this kid, which I think is really cool. And he talks to Hulk here, he talks to Banner, essentially saying to him, you have this girl, Charlie, I think her name is, you have this girl that you need to protect as well. So whatever it takes, man, you need to keep it together and protect this girl at all costs. So it's a pretty cool story right there. I will say that this story overall, we're on issue 8, and we are dragging along, man. I mean, it's been fun. The art's been cool. There's been lots of action and things like that, but I couldn't tell you who the main villain is anymore at this point. I just know that legions of demons and monsters are attacking because they want to assimilate with his power. They want to draw him in, absorb him into this greater evil that's out there right now. But we still have not seen exactly who that evil is in the series, and it's really killing me. I really need this book to go forward. It's fun. It's interesting. It's cool writing. It's great art, but like, where's the story? I don't know. Incredible Hulk issue number 8. It's still chugging along. The next Marvel book we read was Dead X-Men issue number 1 from Fox. And this book was really cool. I remember seeing it at the shop and I was flipping through it. I'm like, yeah, let me go ahead and pick this up because it looked really fire. The X-Men team that we're seeing on here, if I remember correctly, was the X-Men team that was announced and very shortly lived during the mutant massacre in the last Hellfire Gala. These mutant teams actually have been resurrected somehow. I'm not entirely sure. What's really funny is there is an excerpt in the beginning of this book that talks about how Xavier has asked this team that was murdered in the Hellfire Gala to go on these certain missions to learn everything they can learn about Moira and some of her lives, and based on the information they can pull out of her brain or memory, they then know the other lives that they can infiltrate and mess around with to prevent this whole thing from happening. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know how they're able to use these characters if they were all destroyed, ripped in half, and crushed in the Hellfire Gala. So if you can fill in the gap there for me. And I think that speaks to the larger problem we're having with Marvel right now is I feel like I'm reading a decent amount of Marvel titles, but every once in a while I read something that feels disconnected, disjointed. I just can't put the pieces together, and it might be revealed in another book that I'm not reading. So, you know, I'm trying to do my best to keep up here, but there's a couple threads that I just cannot keep straight in my head. With that said, interesting story. Again, I don't really know where it's going to go exactly. So you learn more about the Moira lives. You learn more about where you can jump in her 10 lives or whatever. Certain points you can jump to complete whatever mission you're trying to complete right now. It's going to be interesting to see the ramifications of that. Cool art and everything in here, but yeah, Dead X-Men issue number 1, interesting. It definitely adds another layer of complexity to the whole, you know, Moira engine thing. So yeah, it's not too bad. What'd you guys think? We're going to jump over to DC next with Batman Offworld issue number 3 from Aaron and Mankey. This book is really cool. I just like the idea of Batman in space kicking alien asses. He's being trained by these other super violent, super assassin-like aliens, and he's learning all the weaknesses of the aliens that were keeping him captive. He escapes their captivity. It's kind of like a Chronicles of Riddick situation, right? Where like there's these evil people running a prison and basically enslaving all the different people. He finds a way to escape from there, taking out a bunch of people along the way, rescuing some of the prisoners as well. He crash lands on this other planet and takes on the local, demon or the local beast that's been terrorizing the land, actually featured on the cover here, ends up taming this wild beast and then continues his mission because he really can't go home right now. He just learned that there's this evil empire essentially completely laying waste and enslaving people. So he has to take the fight to them, crafts himself a new suit and takes it right to them. And so of course we get to see Batman doing Batman stuff in space with a brand new suit that he even admits he barely understands the technology that's keeping it together. So that's going to be really cool to see what's going on there. We do touch back again on the kind of origin of how he got there to begin with. There was a battle inside of Gotham. There was this demon here who talked about some kind of, I don't know, like sector in space or something like that. And a couple weeks after that encounter in Gotham, he went and discovered where this place was and wanted a mission to stop this threat because this thing kicked his ass last time we saw him, and he knew it would be a problem if he left it unchecked, right? And so we get to see a higher power, like a higher ranking, more powerful being inside of this book. And so it's going to be fun to see what Batman can do against that. Offworld, really cool book. Batman in space, kicking alien asses, man. What more could you want, right? Check it out. Next book from DC, Trinity Special issue number 1 from Tom King. Now, if you've been reading Wonder Woman and you've been reading the back matter, those backstories with the Trinity, with Damian, with John, and with Trinity, and you've been keeping up with those backstories, you might want to just skip this one, although I think there's one issue in here, or one short story that is new to just this one, but perhaps it was in something else and I just missed it. But Trinity Special is a collection of all those backstories. Maybe there's one extra story in here. So if you liked the story about John having to go rush off to save a dam and Damian had to stay back and tie her shoes and stuff like that, that real charming scene, you're going to be digging this. If you're into the stuff where she gets attacked by like this dream monster and she goes on a dream and it almost kills her, yep, that one's in here too. If you like the kangaroo race thing that they did, yep, that's in here as well. Or the original story, I think it was, from Trinity when she goes and meets the evil guy that's actually running the show right now in the Wonder Woman series. She has a little conversation with him at the end of here as well. There is a newer story, perhaps, called Mothers and Daughters, which I thought was really cool. It's an interesting side-by-side, flashing back and forth story between Diana and her mother during some kind of a ritual to maybe ascend to like a Wonder Woman status, and Trinity and Wonder Woman having that exact same conversation. And there's like this duel right here, and it's a feat of strength basically with your bands, with your armbands, right? If you can stop a bullet. There's a lot of cool conversation, and of course they mirror each other, and it was really cool. It was actually executed really well. I like the Wonder Woman run fair enough, but the Trinity stuff and the back matter, I'm loving way more. So this was pretty cool to have it in a collected format. I enjoyed it. If you've skipped all the back matter, maybe pick this one up and read it because there's a lot of great humor in here. And yeah, I'm loving this one. What'd you guys think? All right, let's do some indies. We're going to jump over into Image Comics right now with Moon Man. Kid Cudi presents Moon Man with Kyle Higgins on here as well. Great covers for this book. I was really excited to see this one, and I remember seeing some of the interior shots and being kind of, blown away by those visuals and colors and whatnot. We have a guy right now who is in space. There was a moment in time while he was in space with his crew where all the electronics and everything went down. It was like 7 minutes or something like that, and he, I guess, passed out, didn't really know what was going on, and when he came back to Earth, he's realizing that there might be something wrong with him now, right? He may have developed some kind of a power. Does this really sound familiar, Fantastic Four? Yeah, so he basically comes home and starts interacting with his family again, who is really against the organization who put him up in space to begin with. Dude's out picketing and things like that. They're like ruining the Earth and whatever. And so he has, he basically has family that was really against the people that he was working with. And our main character goes out here to stop some protests that were turning violent. He hops back in like whatever suit he has right now, and the powers that he manifested unknowingly in space pop up right here, and it's a little bit on display, and we can see exactly what's going on. And so we're still understanding what is happening, how it's happening, what the powers are. Visually, the book is great. I think it's pretty straightforward as far as the storytelling goes. There's some cool emotion back and forth, but like some of it feels a little bit shallow or short in my opinion, and like the whole premise of this book is basically the Fantastic Four, you know? So we'll see exactly where this book goes. I don't know. What'd you guys think of this one? There's a lot of cool back matter in here too, a lot of character sketches and some notes and stuff like that. So if you're into behind the scenes stuff, you're going to get a lot of that. It kind of fools you because this book feels double sized at least, but I would say that those extra pages are basically, you know, lots of advertisements, and here are some cool covers and character moments and sketches and things like that. So I like the back matter like that. I wish they would do that for all comics, to be honest with you. But Moon Man issue number 1, it was okay. Visually, it was great. Not an original story. Some of the character moments hit, some of them didn't, but it was okay. What'd you guys think? All right, from Skybound, we have Duke issue number 2, Joshua Williamson on this one. This was a great book. I like this one. Really, really action-packed, which was really cool. I don't think during the review here, I'm going to give you any names of the Joes, G.I. Joes, or whoever in the universe were shown in this book. Although when you flip through it, you can probably tell if you're into that kind of stuff. That's a little bit beyond me at this point, but this is really cool because basically we have Duke outmanned, he's outgunned, he's trying to find some people that can help him out in his journey. He's just got his ass kicked a little bit, and so he's out there trying to find some more friends, some allies, right? And remember in the last issue, we had some of the other Joes that were contracted to find him, take him down, and that's exactly what we get inside of this book. He allies himself with somebody, and then they're immediately under attack by these pair of people who are extremely formidable, and they end up taking down our heroes pretty quickly. Now, there's a couple surprises in this book, some really great character moments, some cool conversations, amazing artwork, things like that, and a great, great surprise character at the end of this book that I'm not going to spoil it for you. But, I mean, Duke, it's been fun so far. Not a whole lot of depth just yet. I think the first issue gave us a little bit more, but this one was just like an action-packed kind of an issue. I'm still excited for the universe, obviously. I'm going to keep reading it. So if you want just that mindless, popcorn-chomping fun kind of a comic book, man, yeah, check out Duke. It's been awesome so far. Dynamite Entertainment, man, we have Lilo and Stitch, issue number 1. I just got it basically because it was new number 1. Lilo and Stitch, we love the movie around here, so I went ahead and picked it up. I read it. It's cute. It's fun. It's continuing the story right now from the movie, introducing you to a lot of the different characters, really emphasizing the family aspect of this, right? Lilo and Stitch just getting along. We get to see the mom. We get to see a lot of the characters that we know and love. Stitch actually gets kidnapped by some robots in here, and we get to see that play out. And yeah, it was just kind of cutesy. If you're into those Saturday morning cartoon books, I think you might be digging this book right here. Of course, it's Disney. It's Lilo and Stitch. Greg Peck's on this one. So, you know, buy it for your kids if you guys have seen the movie, or even if you haven't seen the movie, pick it up. It's fun. It's a kid's book. It's Disney. It's Lilo and Stitch. It was all right. Oni Press, Jill and the Killers, issue number 1. I got this one because the cover was interesting and I wanted to check it out. I haven't read anything from Olivia Briggs in quite some time, so I was excited to jump back in here and see what's going on. Not exactly my cup of tea, but if you're into like Babysitter Club mysteries or something like that, if you like murder mysteries that are led by teens because the cops or the FBI or the investigators are too incompetent to do anything, so the teenagers have to step up and solve everything. If you're into those kinds of things, then yeah, man, this book might be right up your alley. If not, you know, read issue number 1 anyway. And you might enjoy it. But we basically have a kid here who is suffering the loss of a mother, and for the past year or so, she has not been attending school. A lot of the friendships that she used to have, some of the romantic relationships, and just some of the friendships she had are kind of degrading right now, and there's new people that have come into the circle, and they're kind of messing with stuff, and they get into conversations about murder mysteries and whatnot. And again, this kid's mom went missing, presumed dead by her, but they haven't closed the case yet. They get into this murder mystery conversation, and they actually subscribe to a monthly box that personalizes a murder mystery for the person who ordered it, right? And it's very specialized for the town that this person is in, their interests and things like that. And we find out that maybe there's a little bit more to this murder mystery kit than they were led to believe, and it's a little bit too real to the point where it's actually investigating a real murder that happened 5 years ago in this very same town. Of course, we have several people to keep up with, and we have relationships. So again, if you're into those kinds of things, those murder mystery stories, you know, led by teenagers and stuff like that, you're going to be digging this book, I think. So check out Jill and the Killers, issue number 1. Let me know if you have. Let me know your thoughts below. All right, the last book we read this week from Distillery, we have Somna, issue number 2. Yeah, this book is hot and heavy, just like issue number 1. So if you're into those romantic novel kinds of books, you're really going to like this one, because that's exactly what you get in the beginning and the end of this book. But the story of this book is actually maturing a little bit more in here as well. I initially came out of issue number 1 thinking it was kind of a, I don't know, shallow, cheap kind of a way to sell books, to be honest with you. It's like, okay, let's load it with a bunch of hot and heavy, like intimacy and things like that, and let's go shallow on the story. story. It does open up a little bit in here, but it's pretty risque throughout this entire book as well. We're following a girl right now who has a unfulfilled relationship. How about that? Her husband is often gone. He's investigating a lot of stuff around town. He's in another city right now doing some other stuff. Her best friend is messing around with her husband. There was a recent death because this lady was bewitched and she was flirting with the devil and stuff like that. So there's a lot of demonology inside of this book. There's a lot of relationships, affairs, deep desires, unfulfilled inside of this book. And our main character here, every night when she falls asleep, she basically gets it on with the devil. And it usually starts the same way, with her basically trying to like fight this thing off. She doesn't want anything to do with it, but eventually she gives into her temptations and there's just like nothing she can do. She's completely possessed by this demon towards the end of it. And then of course she wakes up and she has to deal with that emotion, right? And deal with that and understand she's trying to figure out different ways to not experience that every single night. And she's trying to save her best friend from falling down in that path as well. So it's a very interesting book. There's a lot of players in here. There's a lot of hot, steamy stuff happening in here, obviously. So for mature audiences only, for sure. It's going to be interesting to see like where exactly this book goes. The ending was shocking. Her husband actually comes home at the wrong time. So we have Somna issue number 2 right now. Hot and heavy. Get those cold showers ready. Be careful where you store this book. Keep it on high if you're in the shelf. Keep it underneath your mattress if you need to. Somna issue number 2. What'd you guys think? So guys, that's everything I read this week. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you read down below in the comments and what your favorite books of the week were. While you're down there, like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted when I put out new videos. Thanks again for watching. See you in the comments.